A police officer pleads guilty to murdering Sarah Everard. Wayne Couzens had already admitted kidnapping the 33-year-old in March. Today, unexpectedly, he owned up to killing her, having been accused of indecent exposure many times before.
All of us in the Met are sickened, angered and devastated by this man's crimes.
Also tonight, we catch up with Harry Kane as he dares to dream about lifting the trophy this weekend.
As players, you think of that moment, you dream of that moment. Obviously, we're all grounded enough to know we've got a very tough game on our hands on Sunday.
England, 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 England.
We're with fans as they begin making their own preparations for the final. And we speak to the belle of the football on her big moment at the semi-final.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. Police are facing serious questions tonight after it emerged the officer who raped and murdered Sarah Everard had been accused of indecent exposure 3 times before. One of the allegations against PC Wayne Couzens was made just days before he abducted Sarah as she walked home. The accusations were revealed after Couzens pleaded guilty to murder this morning. The court heard Sarah was a complete stranger to him and he'd hired a car to carry out his crime. Here's Rebecca Barry.
This has triggered such a wave of feeling.
Shockwaves and anger.
Beyond all the public expressions of outrage is a family devastated by the loss of a daughter and sister they describe as a shining example. As a Met police officer, it was Wayne Couzens' duty to prevent crime, yet he's admitted committing the very worst, guilty of the kidnap, rape and murder of Sarah Everard.
All of us in the Met are sickened, angered and devastated by this man's crimes. They are dreadful. And everyone in policing feels betrayed.
3 days after Sarah was kidnapped on the same route, Wayne Couzens was accused of indecent exposure at a fast food restaurant. The same day, he made a reservation for a hire car. Despite the allegation, he continued working, and on the 3rd of March, he finished his overnight shift as a diplomatic protection officer, then picked up the hire car. A few hours later, Sarah Everard left her friend's house in Clapham. She was captured on CCTV as she attempted the 2.5-mile walk home, but she never made it. It was here on this busy road, the South Circular, that Wayne Couzens kidnapped Sarah Everard using the hire car he picked up earlier that day after finishing his shift. But the Met police officer left a trail of evidence, revealing his unquestionable guilt. A bus camera captured footage of his hire car, 2 people next to it, parked on the pavement, its hazard lights on. Using CCTV and automatic number plate recognition, police tracked the car's journey out of London to Kent. A week later, Sarah Everard's body was found in woodland near Ashford, 100 metres from land owned by Wayne Couzens. Her body, only identifiable through dental records, was in a large green builder's bag, similar to one Couzens bought at B&Q days before. And mobile phone data showed he'd been at the crime scene. But when he was arrested, he lied, saying a criminal gang forced him to kidnap a woman to repay a debt to prostitutes. He's never revealed the truth about exactly what he did.
What makes somebody a killer? What makes them get to that point?
A former friend of Wayne Couzens says perhaps his past relationships should have raised alarm.
At the time, he would have been 23, and when they started their relationship, his girlfriend would have been around about 14. It was almost kind of creepy behaviour. He wasn't violent in any way, he wasn't disrespectful in any way, but he was dating a girl that was significantly younger than him.
Sarah Everard's murder triggered protests and calls for change. But her family never chose to merge the memory of her with a movement. Wayne Couzens' lawyer told the court he feels true and genuine guilt. He could spend the rest of his life reflecting on that when he's sentenced in September.
And you mentioned those protests that were sparked by Sarah Everard's death, but there were serious questions for the police as well.
Yes, there are very serious questions about the way the police investigated one of their own. It's emerged that Wayne Couzens was linked to an allegation of indecent exposure 6 years ago, back in 2015, and the police watchdog is now looking at the way Kent police handled that. In that report you heard from Cressida Dick. She met the Everard family this morning to say how sorry she is for their loss, but there remained serious questions for her force too. The police watchdog is looking at the Met Police's handling of 2 allegations of indecent exposure linked to Wayne Couzens shortly before he murdered Sarah Everard. Many will ask, how is a man who was capable of such serious offences deemed suitable to become a firearms officer? And were there missed opportunities to stop him?
OK, Rebecca, thank you. The government's hoping to reduce the number of people being forced to isolate by tweaking the settings of the NHS COVID phone app. The app detects close contacts of someone who's tested positive and tells them to stay at home. But it's recently seen a surge of 62% in those being told to isolate. And as our health editor Emily Morgan reports, cases are continuing to rise.
There's no doubt most of us are socialising as much as we ever did, going for drinks, watching the football with crowds of strangers and generally getting back to normal life. It is no surprise then that COVID rates are increasing and with it the number of people isolating. Freelance pianist Ryan Mackenzie was due to play in a major concert last month. A week before the performance he was pinged by his NHS app and had to isolate for 10 days, even though he kept testing negative.
It's been such a tough year and there's so little going on, so to have, I think it was my first big gig and probably since before Christmas, so yeah, to have that cancelled because I had to isolate was pretty rubbish, yeah.
The NHS app alerts those who've been in close contact with someone who's tested positive. It sent out over 356,000 in England in the last week of June, up 62% on the previous week. NHS Track and Trace also identified over 280,000 people who had to isolate. The government admits with rules about to change, it might need to tweak the app.
Of course, the app will be kept under constant review to make sure it's providing useful information, not over-pinging people, in other words. We're not there yet. And so, certainly keep the app. It's a useful additional sort of weapon in our armoury against coronavirus.
That may be so, but changing the app to ensure proximity to a positive case is accurate will be difficult.
The level of sensitivity is quite difficult because the transmitter power is different on different devices, and therefore, at best, you get an approximation of distance. So you could be, you could be on a tube train, and someone further down the carriage could be the trigger.
1 in 160 of us now has the virus, and many more will contract it in the coming weeks. The fear is, if nothing is done soon, people will simply start turning it off. Emily Morgan, ITV News.
A man's been jailed for 9 years after stabbing 2 paramedics. The ambulance crew were with police checking on the welfare of Martin Smith at his home in Wolverhampton last July when he lunged at them with a pair of knives. Both paramedics have recovered from their injuries. And the police officer convicted of killing ex-footballer Dalian Atkinson has been sacked by West Mercia Police for gross misconduct. Benjamin Monk is serving an 8-year jail sentence for manslaughter. England captain Harry Kane has told ITV News Sunday's match against Italy at Wembley is the biggest game of his life. Kane's penalty against Denmark, but his side through to the team's first major final since 1966, of course. And he admitted it's difficult to stop thinking about what it would be like to win, even though he knows he shouldn't. He spoke to our sports editor, Steve Scott.
1966 maybe, but die-hard fans can name every one of England's World Cup winning team. In 50 years' time, the same will be true of this squad if they can overcome Italy. The most fated then was captain Bobby Moore. The same acclaim would, of course, fall to Harry Kane.
Whenever your name is mentioned in the same company as players like that, it only gives you motivation, gives you confidence. Of course, it'll be an incredible achievement. We've all waited so long as players, as public, as people to see us in a final. So, I mean, these are the opportunities you have to grab with both hands.
England's captain told me today that it doesn't get much bigger than Italy at Wembley in a major final.
I think it's the biggest game in my career so far, probably the biggest game of all of our careers so far. I spoke before about doing something special with England would probably always surpass anything at club level, just because of the magnitude, the long wait for a final, the long wait to win a trophy.
Has there been a time at all in camp when you've perhaps been by yourself, when you've allowed yourself to imagine what it would be like to lift the trophy at Wembley?
Well, I think for sure, as players, you think of that moment, you dream of that moment. Obviously, we're all grounded enough to know we've got a very tough game on our hands on Sunday, but you play football to win. You dream of these moments as a kid, lifting trophies for your country, and we have that opportunity now. So, yeah, a great prospect for us. We just have to enjoy the moment, take it all in, but of course perform, and we want to be on the winning side come Sunday.
One of the class of '66 who scored a remarkable hat-trick in that final knows from experience the wider impact a win on Sunday would have.
This is a national event, and I've realised over 55 years it is not just football or football fans that get excited about the country doing something well. The whole country involved. I've met many people over the years who had no interest in football at all, but tell me they were glued to the TV that afternoon in '66.
The hours will probably drag by over the next couple of days. All the players really want is to get straight back to action, give the performance of their lives, and end Sunday evening doing this all over again. Steve Scott, ITV News, St George's Park.
Well, still to come on the ITV News, we've got more on the build-up to the game.
I'm in Rome at a fan zone that will be packed on Sunday night, but where for now the build-up is more measured than that in England.
And we catch up with 10-year-old Belle after that Mason Mount shirt moment at the semi-finals.
I'm glad it smells like him.
It smells like him?
Yeah.
And how do footballers smell after a match?
Not sweaty, surprisingly.
Join us after the break. Welcome back. Whichever team ends up lifting the trophy at Wembley on Sunday, the real winners are set to be pubs and supermarkets across England. It's thought we're going to spend about £500 million on food, drink and merchandise. Rupert Evelyn reports on how preparations are being made across the country.
Predicting how much stock to get in for the game is an imperfect science. But just like England, at the Nag's Head near Sheffield, they're preparing for all eventualities, even making sure the tournament beer is in the tap.
Yeah, the brewery ran out, and as we were getting closer, we made sure that we saved a barrel ready for Sunday's final, so we could use it on that day.
Sweet Caroline.
In Wisbech, they'll be singing non-stop until Sunday. For aptly named George Cross, the Euros remind him of 1966 and a World Cup final he was lucky enough to attend.
What we got there was amazing. All you could see was red and white. When you get 81, you still remember it.
Friday's school is working to a different curriculum. Classes in War Boys today have been about making memories that will last a lifetime.
We encourage the children to be proud of their achievements and proud of each other's achievements, and we're really proud of the England team.
I'm so over the moon with how they've played so far, and I really hope they win.
I'm really excited. I think they're going to go into penalties, but I hope England's going to win.
From inside homes to streets and communities across England, hopes and expectation is at fever pitch as a nation prepares for an unprecedented final.
Makes you feel proud, I think, you know, it's like with the year that we've had, and yeah, I'm like proud that everyone's sort of supporting them, all getting behind them.
So I'll probably have it on the TV at some point at the weekend, I'm sure.
At an Italian restaurant in Manchester, they're used to entertaining footballers. Come Sunday, they hope to serve up an Italian win.
As a patriotic man, I want Italy to win, but again, I think who is winning this match will be the best. I mean, you can't really say more than that.
Both sides will be in full voice for the final, whether the anthem is Italian or English, from Leeds to London. Fans will be united in song and a desire to win. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News.
Oh, we can't forget, it's a big event too for Italy, of course, and our Europe editor James Mates is in Rome for us. James, how are the preparations going there?
Oh, it's a very, very different feeling here. None of the frenzy that there is in England. Partly, Rome is in the grip of a heat wave, so the fan zone like this, I mean, has been deserted all day when it's been 35 degrees. But one must remember that, you know, Italy has been in 2 Euro finals in the last 20 years. It's won the World Cup 4 times. There is no 50 years of hurt here, quite the opposite. So the streets are not all lined with flags. It's not dominating news coverage. There's no national football songs going on. It's being treated as a very important football match rather than some defining moment in the life of a nation. Indeed, some Italians are more excited by Wimbledon at the moment, with the first ever Italian in the final, though of course I'm sure that'll change by Sunday night. The one slight cloud for them is that Italy's top commentator, their version of John Motson or Clive Tilsley, and 2 technicians who've been in contact with the team today tested positive for COVID-19. Now, they've done lots more testing and no more reports of a positive test, but the last thing they want is for one of their players to have to drop out with a positive test ahead of their departure for England tomorrow morning.
Indeed. Well, thanks very much, James, and your backing track. And you can watch Sunday's final, Italy versus England, of course, right here. Coverage begins on ITV and STV at 6:30, with kick-off at 8. And the government says it hasn't ruled out an extra bank holiday should England win on Sunday, but they won't confirm it either. Ministers and Downing Street say they don't want to jinx England's chances or tempt fate before the match. Britain's Mark Cavendish won today's stage of the Tour de France to equal the all-time record. Cavendish was first over the line at the Carcassonne to bring his career tally to 34 stage wins. And the Olympic flame has reached Tokyo, which is in a COVID state of emergency 2 weeks before the start of the Summer Games. The flame arrived in a closed ceremony without spectators, just as it will be during the Games themselves. And finally tonight, one of the unlikely stars of England's semi-final victory over Denmark was 10-year-old Belle Mcnally. Her reaction to being given Mason Mount's match shirt was quite something, wasn't it? And today there were even more tears as she heard from her hero again. And Belle told our correspondent Paul Davis what she plans to do with her own trophy.
Her hero's shirt, a treasured souvenir of a very special night.
Oh, wow, look, there's a date.
Yeah, Denmark. 7th of July.
You won't forget that in a hurry, will you?
This 10-year-old superfan is still taking in all that's just happened.
I don't know how to explain how special it is. It's just crazy. I didn't expect it at all. It's just unbelievable.
Belle believes Mason Mount had spotted her earlier, waving an England flag with his name on it. And that's why he made his way into the crowd to give her his match shirt.
I just grabbed it and hugged it straight away, and I didn't know what to do, so I just ran to my dad and hugged it and cried.
The look on your face was priceless. How did that feel, that moment?
It was so many different emotions mixed, and Dad's got a video of me shaking like unstoppable. It's crazy.
And it doesn't stop there. This morning, an appearance in the ITV studios and a message from the shirt's original owner.
Hi Belle, it's Mason here. I just want to do this message to you and say how special reaction was after the game when I give you my shirt. That really topped it off for me.
And once again, shock turned into those happy kind of tears.
Oh, Belle.
Back home and decisions on her memento's future.
So what will you do with the shirt now?
I'm probably going to frame it, and I'm really happy with the shirt. And I'm glad it smells like him.
It smells like him?
Yeah.
And how do footballers smell after a match?
Not sweaty, surprisingly.
And with that revelation, it was off to put a few goals past Dad Tommy. Doing what she expects England to do to Italy on Sunday, when she will once again be there to cheer them on. Paul Davis, ITV News, Kent.
Oh, she's brilliant, isn't she? Right, that's all from us for now. Raggy will be here with the news at a later time of 10:15, but for me and all of the evening news team, bye-bye.